So for the section of find a missing angle measure, this is where we're going to apply the inverse trig function. So inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent, and reciprocal function depending on the problem. Now, our first example, use trigonometric function to find the angle measure of theta. So angle measure of theta, which is right here. Now, for sure we know angle is theta. We also know that from or across theta is the side 26, so that's opposite. And then next to theta is adjacent, which is 11. So adjacent will be 11. So the only trig function that use opposite and adjacent would be tangent and cotangent. But let's see tangent first. So if we were to set it up, it'd be tan theta equal opposite over adjacent. So therefore 26 over 11. Now if we were to apply the inverse tangent or arctangent, then this is the form that it would look like. So it would be inverse tan, then what the ratio it was equal, it would be inside the parentheses. So 26 over 11 equals theta. So theta, this is where we would use the calculator. So again, inverse tangent or arctangent of 26 over 11, that's the ratio that we're going to plug inside the parenthesis, and then find the angle measure. Alright, now first off, I'm going to go home. Always check if your settings are in degree mode. So since we're working with degrees, we gotta make sure it's in degree mode. Oh, see? It says that here angle is radian. So what we're gonna do is go to angle, hit right, select degree, and then I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom, make default, hit enter, hit OK. So it should be in degree mode. So now I'm going to type in tan inverse or inverse tan of 26 over 11. So I'm going to go to trig, and then oops, we got to be very careful. Hit enter. Then it's going to be 26 divided by 11 because it's a fraction, and I'm going to hit control enter. So we got 67.0679. So theta equals to 67.0679. But I'm just going to round to one decimal place since we're near the end of the problem. So theta is approximately 67.1 degrees. Now this is tangent, so we use the inverse tangent, but what happened if we were to use the other function, cotangent? So I'm going to leave this here. Now cotangent is the opposite, the flip version of tangent. So and right here, since I have little space, cotangent theta will be the opposite of this. So adjacent over opposite. So that means that if I were to do the inverse cotangent, so adjacent will be on the top, so 11, and then opposite would be the 26 at the bottom, equals theta. So theta, what would it equal? So let's go back to the calculator. Alright, so I'm going to type in cotangent inverse or inverse cotangent of 11 over 26. So let me hit trig, and then I'm going to go down, go to inverse cotangent, and then I'm going to type the flip fraction, so 11 over 26, get outside of parentheses, hit control, enter. Well, what you know, it's the same angle measurement, 67.0679. So we can use the other function, the reciprocal function. In this case, you can either use inverse tangent or inverse cotangent, because using a calculator, it gave us the same angle measurement, 67.0679, which means theta is approximately 67.1 degrees. So in this example, it doesn't matter which function you use, inverse tangent or inverse cotangent, as long as you set it up correctly by following the definition, you should be fine. So inverse tangent equals or approximately 67.1 degrees, and then inverse cotangent is approximately 67.1 degrees. Alright, so we have a second example. It's the same question. Use trigonometric function to find the measure of theta. So here's our theta. So our information is angle is theta. So if we were looking at the picture, across from it is the opposite, which is 14. So opposite is 14. Now the side that's next to theta is not adjacent because one, it's the longest side, but how can we tell? How can we tell that this is the hypotenuse? We can tell that this side is across from the right angle, so therefore this is going to be the hypotenuse, which is 16. Alright, so we have angle theta, opposite is 14, and hypotenuse is 16. So if we're using that information, then the only function we could use is inverse of sine, because sine use opposite and hypotenuse, or inverse of cosecant, because that's also using hypotenuse and sine. But let's say we use sine. So if we remember, sine theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So therefore, if we were to do the inverse of sine, so sine inverse, well, over here, if we were to follow the definition of sine, opposite would be on the top, which is 14, over hypotenuse, which is 16. So therefore, inside of parentheses, I'm going to put 14 over 16 to find theta. So therefore, theta which is where we're going to use the calculator. So we're going to type in inverse of sine of 14 over 16. So zoom in here. Alright, so we're going to go to the trig function. I'm going to go to the inverse sign, and then I'm going to type in the fraction. So 14 divided by 16, get outside the parentheses, hit control, hit enter. So our angle measurement is 61.045. So I'm going to write 61.045 degrees. So basically it means that theta is approximately 61 degrees. Now, like the last example, if we use sine, that means we can use cosecant when we're doing the inverse.